Okay, Baltimore City Council Ways and Means Committee. We are back for Council Bill 21-0080, Ordinance of Estimates for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022. This session, we have Visit Baltimore in the Convention Center. I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Burnett, who's going to be chairing this portion. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going to go to service number 820, and I'll hand it off to you, Mr. Hutchins, to get going on the presentation for Visit Baltimore.
Oh, there we go. So good morning. First of all, thank you, Chairman Burnett and Chair Costello. For those of you all that I have not had the pleasure to meet, Al Hutchinson, President and CEO at Visit Baltimore. And as you know, we are the official destination marketing organization for Baltimore City. And so I'm very proud to be leading the charge for this organization. First thing that I will just say is all of you all know that the travel and tourism industry has been decimated due to the pandemic. So the last 14, 15 months has been really devastating to our industry here in Baltimore City. Obviously, very little hotel tax revenue has been coming in. Convention center tax revenue has been off. And our small businesses, hoteliers, restaurateurs, our museums, everyone has really been impacted by the pandemic of a lifetime. However, with that said, our team has been steady working, partnering with small businesses, doing our part to make sure we continue to reopen the tourism economy here in Baltimore City. And I really want to just start from the standpoint that looking at the proposed budget, it's a 1.6 million increase in our budget over from last fiscal year. We're not back to where we were pre-pandemic, but we're very grateful if this budget is approved that we believe we can use these resources to continue to tell the strong Baltimore story. So with that, again, we're thankful to the City Council for helping us also to restructure our funding model, and want to thank the mayor's leadership team along with the council for approving this new 3-year rolling average model that the state approved this year. We implemented that because we felt it would provide our budget a more sustainable outlook in the future, and it would curb some of the ebbs and flows of a hopefully not a pandemic coming, but any kind of crisis in the future. So this is, I believe, a way to stabilize our budget, help us to continue to market Baltimore City in the future. So for that, we're very thankful and grateful. Let me just give you a couple quick highlights in our industry from a good news story standpoint. Number one, U.S. Travel, which is our lobbyist industry, we take a look at, and they're really projecting that 7 in 10 Americans, or 72%, are planning a summer vacation this year. And out of those, a large number are looking at staying within the state. We think this sets up very favorably for Baltimore City. Our leisure visitor will be coming back a lot quicker than the meetings and conventions meetings. And so we believe there is some pent-up demand. There's also a data point from destination analysts that says about 45% of those planning a trip will stay in state, and preferred mode of transportation will be a car. So Baltimore City, with our proximity, East Coast, I-95 corridor, we believe that this summer we're going to begin to see a lot of our visitors coming back with the vaccine being distributed the way it is, not only here in Maryland, but around the country. We think there's going to be some really uptick in visitation. Additionally, another data point from a visitation standpoint is folks want to go visit family and friends, and Baltimore City is really set up very well for that. And we believe that we're going to get some great visitors here from the summer with the O's playing back downtown now with full capacity. We think that's going to be helpful as well. So the summer months into the fall, we do see uptick in leisure visitation. The lag will be the meetings and conferences. And I know Peggy's going to speak to the convention center in a second, but the last thing that I'll just mention is that recently we did a survey of consumers and their take on Baltimore City compared with our competitive cities. And just something that the council should be aware of, a couple things that our customer has said, those who've been to Baltimore, there are two big areas that we have to begin to look at and continue to look at. One is product development, i.e. product development in the central business district, product development with our convention center, which is the oldest and smallest in our competitive set. That's not a good news story because now the visitors are saying their preference is to go to Detroit, Columbus, Ohio, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Charlotte, instead of Baltimore. And so we have some work to do there. And obviously, public safety is a factor in that as well. So, our team at Visit Baltimore, we will continue to partner with the city entities, police department, and others to help us craft the right story. And no doubt, we're going to continue to partner with Peggy and her team to reposition our convention center once it's reopened to the public, to promote it, to compete where we can favorably. But we do know we have work to do, and we just ask for the council to continue to partner with us and help us in areas that we can improve product development outside of the convention center as well as inside of the convention center. And I'll just stop at that point. Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
Okay, before we take questions, let's go to the convention center presentation. And we have Peggy Didakis. Did I get it right? Okay. Who's gonna give us our the second round before we go to questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everyone. And I appreciate the opportunity to present the status of where we are at the Baltimore Convention Center. I'd like to also welcome the new members that I haven't had a chance to meet yet, and I look forward to working with everyone to strengthen the economic development side of our city at this point. A little bit of background that I want to present is to refresh that we opened the Baltimore Convention Center as an engine for economic development in the city in August of 1979. And then we expanded the facility in 1996, which tripled the size of our organization, or tripled the size of the facility. The current use of the convention center since March of 2020 has been the state's occupancy for medical field operations. We started out with building a 250 bed field hospital in anticipation of potentially needing them for overflow from the emergency rooms in the hospitals as a transition from the hospital setting to recovery. And then they expanded to warehouse for PPEs. And we also became the vaccine and COVID testing center. In addition, we were able to partner with city agencies, including the Department of Planning, where we set up a warehouse for food boxes that would be distributed to the needy families during COVID. And we also partnered with our health department and the state by providing up to 50 employees who worked at the testing site, at the warehouse, and also on site. And so we've been very privileged to do our part in helping the community be safe as well as our employees. And during this time, we have had all of our employees who were not teleworking in, because these are the times we've been trying to take care of getting repairs done and upgrades that we can't do while events are in the building. I also want to thank everyone who provided us with $2 million worth of CARES Act money that we used in preparation for the return of our events to the convention center. Air handling has been the biggest concern, not only for events that we're going to be taking care of, but also to our staff. It's been very important that we upgrade the air handling and HVAC systems. We also invested in infrared testing, temperature testing computers. And if that continues, we'll be able to provide that service to our customers. But we're currently using them for all of our employees and our contractors. And then, of course, the supplies of PPEs, sanitizers, and everything that we could do to improve the quality and safety of the convention center as we prepare. In our slide, the convention center, as you see, has been on a downturn economically. Recently, because of the shutdown that started in March of 2020, we have lost business that we either had to cancel out or we were fortunate enough to rebook them in other dates and in some cases other fiscal years. The whole year for fiscal 21 has been the shutdown, and our only tenant has been the state, but we have been able to get income from them. It's not showing on this slide, but the income is close to $5 million that we have been able to get from the state, which I assume will be recovered and for the occupancy of the convention center. And in the current budget, we had anticipated close to 100 events, but that has been shortened because fewer events because we are spanning into fiscal 22 with the shutdown. I do have an update that is as current as yesterday. We did get word that the state is now going to probably start to demobilize the hospital by on August the 1st. It will take them about 6 weeks to demobilize and put our convention center back together again. They built incredible facilities within ours, so they're going to put that all back again. We are also going to consolidate the warehouse, but that is going to be here until October 1st. And we are going to have the COVID testing and vaccine center available until October 1st. However, with a demobilization, it'll give our customers comfort to come back into the building. And we do have a few events that can occupy our meeting rooms and ballroom. And we do have 2 events for one of the exhibit halls. So hopefully we'll be able to recapture them. So that is the current information that we have. But you know, we need to give people confidence to bring their meetings and conventions back, and that's what we're hoping to do. Our economic impact statistics that are below our revenues and number of attendees show results of a study that the Maryland Stadium Authority, our partner that funds the convention center's operating budget by 2/3, operating deficit by 2/3, and that's by legislation until currently 2029. They do a study every year of the economic impact that the Baltimore Convention Center has with just the events that have taken place at the center. And we felt 2 important statistical information was we wanted to share, and that is the city tax revenue that we get from the events at the convention center. And because of the downturn in our number because of COVID, you will see that the actual for 2020 was a lot lower than it had been in previous years, but also the jobs that we create. We employ not only our city employees, but we create jobs as a result of the setup of the events, the catering of the events, the public safety, the audiovisual, the technology, all the jobs that are related to the hospitality industry that are actualized because of events. So we're hoping that, again, we can bring the convention center back quickly and get those jobs back into play very, very soon and get those numbers up. But 21 is not going to show very good statistics because of the state occupancy. The other thing that is important for you to know, you will see that about 95% of our operating budget is salaries and contractual services. The contractual services are the things that take care of our HVAC system, our security systems, our fire systems, to window washing and all the contracts that we have. The building, as Al mentioned, is the oldest and smallest in competitive set. And we have some very serious operational issues and infrastructure issues. We have some systems that have been in place since 1979. We are currently working with the Maryland Stadium Authority to update the report that was done about the health of our facility, and um, we are seeing in a draft form that there are very serious infrastructure issues that we're going to have to address. The study is still underway and we're going to have a cost analysis, but we have to address the concerns that the building needs to be modernized, it needs to be safe, and we don't want a shutdown of the convention center because we can't do the kinds of things that are important to service the events. With the contractual services, because we're so old, it's taking more money to maintain the facility. There are lots of parts that aren't available anymore. There are lots of things that needs to be done because of the aging. So I'm hopeful that the study for the health of the facility and the state of the mechanical engineering and plumbing systems will be available in about a month or so, and we'll work with the Stadium Authority as in terms of how we come up with a plan, and with the mayor's office and you all with how we go forward from this point. The west side of the building, it's not the old and the new, the west side is now 25 years old, is starting to show signs of wear as well. And there was a study done in 2017 that addressed those. So we're going to combine the two to come up with a plan of prioritization and how much that will cost. I think that's it from an operating standpoint, and obviously I'm available for questions specifically to the budget or anything that I've presented with regard to the FY22 budget. And I thank you for all the support you always give to the Convention Center, and we're hopeful that we can recover very quickly.
Thank you. So we're going to go to questions from the council. So first up, I see Council Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Chair Burnett. I guess I first want to kind of give a comment to both the Convention Center and Visit Baltimore. And I just want to say, we know our tourism industry is just so very important to our city. And I want to thank Peggy, you and Al for the work that you continue to do. The Convention Center just happened to have been the first site where I received my first test for COVID. And so very sophisticated operation. And so appreciate the partnership that you built with the University of Maryland system and had that moving very well. And for Al, I really want to publicly thank you for the work that you continue to do. We had started working together when I had my year term as president of the Maryland Association of Counties, and we were planning our annual retreat, which is usually held in the president's county, in our case, city. And of course, that was abruptly stopped because it started in the middle of COVID. So I just can't thank you enough. I know you were already willing and able to set up hotel arrangements and everything. And, we basically had to stop it. So I'm going to be, and I've started conversations with Mako to at least maybe have a dinner occasion or something in Baltimore, just to show the rest of the state that we are a very welcoming, hospitable city, and to keep that moving throughout our state. And so my question is to Al, And I know that you had also been working on that HABC basketball tournament that was planning to start in our city. Is there any update on that? Is that still in the making? Is Al still here?
One second, they're having some technical issues. They're trying to get them back on. 1 second.
Okay. Okay.
I may need to, I'm not sure if you even heard your question. They may need to repeat it. 1 second.
Sure.
Oh, you heard it? Okay. All right. We're just trying to get his audio back up.
Okay.
Start video. I know you guys love technology, right? So to your question, Councilman Middleton, the CIAA basketball tournament, which is scheduled for February of 2021, was canceled due to the pandemic. However, our team has been working very strongly and closely with the CIAA conference to bring the tournament to Baltimore City, February of 2022. It'll be the last week in February, Tuesday through Sunday. And so Peggy and her team are a part of this as well, because the convention center will be used as a activity place, trade show, job fair center. Royal Farms Arena will be where the basketball tournament will be held. But all around Baltimore City, there will be activities for the tournament. So we're working very hard. We have some local event coordinators that we partner with to help us through this cause. It's, I believe, because of all the pent up demand, no one traveled really last year. We really believe February 22, the tournament is probably going to be the strongest ever. So we have some work to do to make sure we roll out the red carpet and that everybody's on board with the tournament. But we are excited about it, and we look forward to welcoming the CIAA to Baltimore in 2022.
Thank you. I'm glad that's still going on. Please keep the council president and our council updated on that, because we, I'm sure, can definitely play a role in helping that to be a successful rollout. Just in my conversations throughout the African American community, they were excited about that happening, and I'm sure the excitement is still there. So please keep us updated.
So, Councilman Middleton, if I can just follow up on that, and President of the Council, Nick Mosby, has been extremely helpful. Because we lost 2021's tournament, we do have an interest in extending the tournament. The contract is only for 2 more years, 22 and 2023. I think, I don't think, I know if we're very successful with hosting the tournament in 2022 and really do this tournament well, I think there is a open opportunity for the CIAA looking at extending the tournament a little longer in Baltimore. But it's all going to be incumbent on how we deliver and what we do for this year's tournament.
Thank you. And
Yes,
thank you for all the work you've been doing on that, and just all the other things that, you know, you do behind the scenes that people don't see and understand. But I appreciate all the work that you've done since you've been here, even through this time of COVID.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman.
All right. Next up, I see the hand raised, Councilmember Ramos.
The council president also has his hand up if he wants to go first.
Oh, sorry, Council President Mose, I didn't see you there.
No, it's fine. Councilwoman Ramos, you got it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Obviously, the convention center has played a really important role during the pandemic. So I'm glad that you were able to play that role, and then also take advantage of the opportunity to do some upgrades. And obviously, more needs to be done. My question is to Mr. Hutchinson. One of the things that frustrates me is that it seems, and I could be wrong, so please correct me if I'm wrong. To me, the neighborhoods are the best thing about Baltimore. And it seems to me that Visit Baltimore tends to focus on tourism in the downtown and in the harbor area. Yet I have Hampton the Avenue, I have Greenmount Avenue, I have world-class Clifton Park, I have Lake Montebello. We have these amazing assets in our city that we want visitors to come, but we also want people to say, hey, this is a great place to live and improve our tax base. So can you tell me a little bit more about the plans moving forward to really market our amazing assets to the rest of the world?
Well, Councilman Ramos, first of all, let me thank you for the question. It's a very appropriate question. I'm coming up on 5 years here in Baltimore, leading Visit Baltimore. And your question is one that I got day one when I got to Baltimore 5 years ago. And if we're still getting it, that just says to me we got more work to do. But quite frankly, we have made a strong attempt, a deeper dive into being more neighborhood focused and more neighborhood storytelling, quite frankly. But can we do better? Absolutely. And we will. I want to partner with you. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about that. But you should know that our team went through an 18-month effort pre-pandemic to put together the most robust, the most inclusive, the most equity-centric rebrand storytelling of Baltimore that's probably ever been done in Baltimore, and very inclusive, not just the CBD, but talked about the neighborhoods. But we didn't only just talk about the neighborhoods, we reached out to your neighbors, people who live in your community, to help with the storytelling. And for the very first time, and can we do better? Absolutely, and we want to do better. But I'm proud of the work we've done, because now for the first time, we have a Baltimore City story that's it looks like Baltimore. It's Latinx, it's Asian American, it's African American storytellers, small business owners, people who own bookstores, coffee shops, poets, writers. They are helping us with this story. So you see it on our website. A lot of what we do you don't see because it's outbound. It's in Boston, it's in New York, it's in Philly, it's in DC, it's in Virginia Beach. We're trying to tell a more inclusive Baltimore story that includes all neighborhoods and all contributors. So I think we're at a good place, Councilwoman Ramos. We're not at the optimal place. We want to do better, but I can tell you from what I hear locally from a lot of stakeholders, they're very proud of this new look and feel of the Baltimore story because they see themselves in the story. We were very intentional of how we developed it. We invited over 150 stakeholders to help us create this new story from all communities: gay, straight, trans, Black, white, Latinx, Asian American, faith-based. We're at the table. So proud of the work, but we got to do better. We want to do better. My goal, as long as I'm here in Baltimore City, is to create a story that makes Baltimore City one of the all-time greatest stories in America. Now, do we need to do better with this work? No question about it. But I think we're in a good place with very little resources to create this great story. I think we landed in a great place. And I will tell you one last thing, that as I travel around the country, other cities are taking a look at what we developed. And they said, wow, this is what Baltimore City's done. We need to do better. So I think we're ahead of the curve. When all the social injustice happened last summer, we had already put this plan in place, and we want to continue to double down on it, enhance it, grow it, bring more communities. So your constituents, I definitely look forward to talking to you to make sure the next time I'm in front of you, you won't ask me the question about what are we doing with other neighborhoods. So I got more work to do, and I appreciate the question.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Have you been working also with Live Baltimore? Because here's the thing for me also is that the biggest part of our revenue is our property taxes. Okay. And then, when I'm looking at the budget book here, there's a little sliver of, other taxes, which is where the, tourism, and I think we have to be able to attract people to Baltimore, no question. I think, and I'm going to bring this up when Live Baltimore comes up later on this afternoon, I feel like they need to be supported to be able to bring people in, but also to retain our residents, because that is the biggest part of our tax base and our revenues. And it seems just a little awkwardly, not proportional to, the revenues to have, so much emphasis on the tourism side and not enough emphasis on bringing people in, retaining our residents. So I don't know if you can answer that question, but this is an observation that I've made, and I'll be talking to Live Baltimore about it. But I guess the question for you is, have you been working with Live Baltimore? Can you do some joint marketing? What are the things that can be done to make sure that we are also enhancing we want to bring people in to be able to enhance our property tax base in addition to telling the good story to the rest of the world. And that's all part hand in hand. So I guess that's my question is, you're telling the neighborhood story, you're bringing people in from all over. We want them to stay. So are we working with Baltimore about how to do that?
I totally agree with you. And yes, we do work with Live Baltimore. Annie Milley was on our search committee to select our agency of record who created our new rebrand. Annie Milley is also on our marketing committee. So she's at the table helping us with our storytelling. We want to do more with Live Baltimore, and we will do more with Live Baltimore in storytelling. On the funding issue, I can't speak to that. But on the storytelling, I think it's very important that we collaborate. And here's why. Visit Baltimore's mission should not just be about bringing a convention to Baltimore. We should be creating a story that if I'm a hot shot and live in Chicago and I want to relocate my business to Baltimore, they should see that Baltimore story. Or if I want to move here and bring my family to Baltimore to live, to buy a home, they should see this cool, hip Baltimore story. If I want to come to school or send my son or daughter to one of the great schools here in Baltimore City, they should see the cool Baltimore story. That's what Visit Baltimore is trying to create, a very prismatic story that's not just about travel and tourism, but it's about the overall Baltimore experience. Live has a place with that because, to your point, we do want people to buy homes here, pay tax revenue, but we also want them to have a great experience. So not just to buy a home here, but to stay here. And so if we don't have the right story in place, we won't get the visitor, we won't get the resident, we won't get the new business, and we won't get the student. So my job is to partner with Annie, it's Live, and other agencies so we can create a kick butt Baltimore story that's not only here in the region, but around the country that people fall in love with and want to be a part of the great city of Baltimore.
And I think just as an added point, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, that telling the Baltimore story is also internal, right? We want to feel good about our city. And I think a lot of people do, which is why we have, tons of people along, walking Lake Montebello and, people are staying. So part of it is also internal. So, because that's part of the retention piece as well. So I would imagine I hope that you're talking with Annie a little bit about that as well.
No.
So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
No, if I could just follow up real quickly, I agree with everything you said. Our number one customer are our local residents. So we need to do a much better job of connecting with the neighborhoods. And I can tell you on this phone, I'll have my team reach out to you and we'll make sure that your community is a part of our Baltimore story for sure.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Council President.
Thank you. Council President Mosley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hutchinson, first and foremost, I want to thank you for your leadership of being unafraid of really sharing Baltimore's authentic story, the story that we don't necessarily hear from voices and faces that we don't necessarily see on a national stage. And I'm talking none other than Quadani Fidel and all the work that you guys have poured into roping his amazing talent, his amazing story to really project our Baltimore story. I think that is evident as it relates to when we talk about the CIAA conference. I don't think many people understand and know this because the schools are smaller, the conference is smaller, but that's the highest grossing NCAA tournament conference out of all of the big five and all the other ones. The level of financial impact and economic impact and the residual effects of that. When you see, talking about in Chicago, how businesses will relocate, well, we saw that in Charlotte, where the tournament was there for a really long time. People were able to grow in love with the city. People were able to set up businesses in the city, and that residual economic effect was there. So, one of my main points in trying to work with you is to ensure that we extend out past the 2 years, because I think 2 years of a start out is great. But I think it takes a couple years to really for the city to get its mojo and momentum, and for the tournament and their spectators to really appreciate the city that we know and love. So again, any help that this council can do to ensure that we lock in that extended agreement, definitely interested in trying to work with you and help with you. I know the last time we talked was during the Convention Center Hotel board meeting. And I think one of the things I asked you was the implications of the medical operations at the convention center to other conferences that were coming up. I think you have a big one that folks are coming in town for, all the Al Hutchinsons from around the country, right? I think that's the next biggest convention coming in town. But with the August date that was provided to us, to me today, it's the first time I'm hearing of that date. Does that provide any interference with things that are planned? Are you guys part of that? Part of the planning around breaking down the facility, and you okay in working with the state around that?
I'll defer to Peggy for that question, but yes, the great question. And
well, I got to get it from you as far as any upcoming conferences or any interference.
I'll say this before I pass the baton to my colleague. No interference. The first conference that will be in Baltimore City is July 13th through 15th, Destination International. And you referenced it. It's all the Visit Baltimores around the country. So we're going to have close to 1,000 people here staying at the Hilton Hotel, using the convention center. And we got to do this right, because these are folks who compete against us every day. And a lot of them think we don't know what the heck we're doing. So we really need to show these folks that Baltimore is a great city. We have great assets, and we want to celebrate those assets and really show them off during that 3-4 day conference in July. So we're going to be ready, and Peggy and her team are working very hard to make sure we have access to the ballroom at the convention center. But in reference to the August date, Peggy, you want to really speak to that?
Right. The August date, we just got confirmation yesterday from the state that they will start the demobilization August 1st. But the Destinations International does know the operation of the hospital will still be in play, but they're still going to use the convention center ballroom. So we're really pleased that we can host that. The fact that there are patients in the building has caused some of our business not to want to be there, even though this week the number was 2. So the good news is there aren't that many people there. But the bad news is it's still in operation. So we were able to work with the state, who wanted to stay longer at first, but once the governor started freeing up a lot of the restrictions, they took a second look at it and are going to start giving us our building back starting in August. Unfortunately, the events that we have in July, August, and September The few that we have not had to relocate or cancel, they do not use the exhibit halls, so we are going to be able to use the meeting room space and the ballroom, but the exhibit halls will not be able to be used until October, when our major conventions and events start coming back. So we feel confident that the state will be good for their word to put Humpty Dumpty back together again and give us our building back, and we'll be working side by side with them to make sure that it's a smooth transition.
Thank you, Peggy. One last question to Al. I know that we've seen a reduction, and we will continue to see a reduction in hotel rooms in downtown Baltimore. Obviously, I will assume that puts a tremendous amount of pressure on you when you're around the country selling folks and trying to bring folks into Baltimore. Is this something that we're seeing in similar cities around the country, in their central business districts or their convention center districts? If so, is there anything that the council can do, or that the Baltimore Development Corporation or other folks can do to proactively kind of get ahead of this tide? But I think if I saw a number, maybe about 1,300 hotel rooms will be going offline in the coming months, which jumped out to me as a major concern. So just want to hear the implications from a Visit Baltimore perspective, and any advice to the council or things that we should be looking at to help stem that tide.
Well, thanks for the question, Mr. President. And the short answer is this phenomenon is happening in other urban hubs similar to Baltimore. DC has experienced some lost business. Some of their boutique hotels have closed. The Marriott Marquis sold during the pandemic. That's their largest hotel in the city. Philadelphia has experienced the same, obviously New York City. So yes, urban hubs have been impacted because there's no travel at all. Folks just stopped traveling, and a lot of our hotels in Baltimore are very dependent on the group business, the meetings and conventions. And really, for all of us on this call, the meetings and convention business in Baltimore is extremely important to the revenue for this city. So what can we do to try to fix this? As soon as Peggy can get that convention center back, like I wish she could get it back tomorrow, we got to get back to getting business here. A lot of our conventioneers, they want to come to Baltimore, but we're not fully open. But once we can get that asset back, folks love coming to Baltimore. And I think where you guys can be helpful to us is helping us with messaging, because we need to get conventions coming back. And folks are beginning to travel. They're going to the Charlottes and the Nashvilles and the Austins, but we're ready. And Peggy and her team have done a fantastic job of putting the right protocols in place. And I think we do not need to lose any major flag, i.e. like the Hilton. We need that hotel to stay online. If that were to go offline, we got a problem. So we need to help our hotel community. How do we help them? Getting business to Baltimore. And those of you who are in professional organizations, we need you to bring your business to Baltimore as well. And in fact, we need to draw a campaign that goes out to the community, our business leaders, asking them to bring their business to Baltimore. Board meetings, regional meetings, committee meetings. It starts with us. So that's the answer, Mr. President. We got to get center open and get business back to Baltimore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've been rejoined by Councilmember Costello. I do see hand up. Councilmember Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a follow up to this dialogue that just happened about the hotels. We are housing over 500 people who have been experiencing homelessness in our hotels. I'm hoping I know we're going to hear from the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services, but that has been a major resource that our hotels have been able to help us with. And so I'm hoping that, as business gets better, that we actually have a solution for getting those folks actual housing and not just kick them out of the hotels prematurely. So just adding that in there. I don't know if you've had those discussions with MOHS yet about that.
I agree, Councilman Ramos.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, are there any more questions? And we have 3 more minutes to the next hearing. All right. Seeing none, want to say thank you to you both for all your hard work and everything that you're doing during this incredibly difficult time. And I'm looking forward to conventions and hotels and everything getting the city booming again. Thank you all. We're going to recess for like 2 minutes and then go to the next hearing.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.